Hey guys, how's everyone doing? This is Nick from forexfornoobs.com with the daily analysis. Today is Thursday, the 21st of February 2019, and time is 10:01 here in the UK. Today's analysis, we're going to be looking at setups that I shared on Tuesday and Wednesday. We're going to be looking at new potential setups. We're going to be looking at everything. And it's all going to be price action setups. When I say price action setups, I mean continuations, reversals, ranges, all kinds of price action setups. Doesn't really matter as long as it's price action. Good morning, Paul, Steve, Sol, Janine, Stan, and evening, Raphael. Oh, and I guess evening Stan too. What caused the sudden drop on our New Zealand pairs? Well, since we're going to start off with checking out Forex Factory calendar, I'll show you a handy little tool on Forex Factory that might help you out. For those of you who don't know. Right, so Forex Factory, let's take a quick look at the calendar, see what's coming up today. We got core durable goods orders from the US, which I don't really care that much about. Not really bothered with that. Doesn't really move the market often. Now, I have said this before, it doesn't move the market often, and then all of a sudden you get a big move from a report like this. Probably not this one in particular, but there's been similar situations where I say it doesn't really do anything and then it does something. When I say it doesn't really do anything, I mean the vast majority of the times. There are going to be times here and there where it comes out way off consensus and it causes a huge move that surprises traders. But if you trade in fear of that every single week, then you're going to miss out on a lot of good trade opportunities. You're going to close out a lot of good trades early. Now, I used to live in fear of that, and I used to not trade around these reports, these more minor reports. And I know they're marked as red on Forex Factory, but that doesn't really mean much. Generally speaking, these are kind of minor reports. I used to trade in fear of them, and I used to tighten my positions, tighten my stop losses on my open positions, and all that kind of stuff. But at some point, I just realized that most times I'm doing that, and it's costing me money because the few rare occasions where it does move like crazy, that, sometimes those are going to end up in my favor, sometimes they're going to go against me and they're going to hit my stop loss. But more often than not, trading overly cautiously around minor-ish news releases is going to cost you more than it makes you. So yeah, I'm going to ignore core durable goods. The one exception I have with news releases is when it comes to people talking. People talking is basically speeches, because people talking can say dumb things and they can say unexpected things. And especially when the press are involved and they ask tough questions, then things can get pretty sketchy on the charts. You can get random huge movements. Now those I do worry about still. So for today, 5:35 p.m., you got Governor Polos speaking. Watch out on your CAD trades around that time. Might want to tighten those stops, or you might want to widen those stops. There's two approaches really, and it's up to you which one you choose. Some traders believe in widening their stops around times like this, speeches, giving their trade a little bit more room to breathe. So if price moves against you, it won't stop you out and eventually it'll turn back in your direction. Others believe in tightening their stops to reduce the risk. Up to you. I generally tighten my stops in most occasions because I don't like to widen my stops. And if you widen your stops, of course, as always, close out some of that position to reduce, to keep your percentage risk at your minimum. Anyway, tomorrow, since there won't be analysis tomorrow, since it's a Friday, we got ECB President, I don't even know how to say his name, but he is speaking, Draghi. So watch out for that too. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it for the news. Now, let me show you that little trick. Well, it's not a little trick, it's just a tool that helps you identify the cause of big moves uh, on currencies. So we'll go with New Zealand USD in this case. What time were you looking at the big drop, Stan? Was it this one here? I'm guessing it was this one here. So basically what this does is it gives you a chart, and underneath the chart it shows you all major news reports that may have affected the currency in question. You set the currency here. We've got it on New Zealand USD already, luckily, but you can set it to whatever you want. And you've got your time frame thingy. Where is it? I can't remember. Am I being blind? Where do you set the time frame on this thing? I don't really use it that often. I feel like I am being blind. Wait, was that there? I think that had disappeared, right? I'm going to check the recording after this. I think that had disappeared. And I couldn't see it. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So there's a few options for time frames: 1 minute, 5 minute, 1 hour, 4 hour daily. If you want to drill right down, go down to the 5 minute and see what caused that big drop. And it looks like in this case it was this report. Now, this is a red report, but it didn't appear on the calendar because this was kind of like a surprise red report, right? It wasn't something that was planned. That was on the calendar. So you can click on that and then you can read about it. China's Dalian customs ban Australian coal imports indefinitely. Pretty big news, and what happens to Australia often affects New Zealand, so that's probably what caused it. When you drill down to the 5 minute and it links up, then that's probably a good sign that the drop was caused by that. So that gives you a little bit of insight. And there was an initial drop here, which doesn't seem to have been really caused by much, or maybe this. Yeah, there's all these. All right, it did disappear. Right, I thought I was going crazy and I couldn't see it. So it wasn't me. It was the platform being buggy and the website being buggy and weird. Righto. So that's a handy little tool for you guys to use. I use it not too often because I don't really care when news moves price against me or in my direction. It doesn't really matter that much to me, so I don't really use it that often. But sometimes when something big happens and I'm like, whoa, where'd that come from? I'll use this little tool here. So let's get back to the actual analysis. We've been going like 10 minutes and we haven't actually done any analysis. First, we're going to look at trades that I've shared recently. Things are going pretty well with trades I've shared. We've got New Zealand CAD. I shared this one on Tuesday, I believe, or maybe even I shared it last Thursday. Might have been the case. I cannot remember when it was shared, but I shared this in a recent analysis session. I entered this one, wasn't going to... Actually, I don't think this is my exact entry. I think this tool might have been moved. I think my entry was a tad lower. It doesn't really matter. I entered this one. So this was... Yeah, 19th was Tuesday. Yeah, but that was after the analysis, I believe. After Tuesday's analysis... I think this was towards the end of the day. Let me see if I'm getting this timeline right. Yeah, well, it wasn't end of the day, but it was midday. It shot back up, is the point. It shot back up like crazy. And this was after I released the analysis on Tuesday, where I said that this was a good setup. Now, a lot of people, one person asked on YouTube, and then I got a few emails asking, hey, Nick, have you closed out this trade because it's moved against you? And my answer was the same to everyone. No, that's called trading out of fear. Just because you've entered a trade and then it pushes against you a little bit, it doesn't mean you should bail out of that trade. Now, there are obviously legitimate reasons to bail out of a trade that's moving against you, get out early, but this is not one of them. Just because price drops down and then pulls back up doesn't mean you should just immediately exit the trade. This is just a normal thing that happens. Trades aren't going to go in your direction right away. And sometimes it is best to hold on to the trade, especially in cases like this. Now, I was pretty excited about this setup when I shared it with you guys last week or early this week. I can't remember, like I said, because it was a nice range. So ranges are often very, very powerful, give you very, very powerful setups. So what is a range? A range is this. We got price ranging between two areas of support resistance. Once it hits the bottom, it bounces away. Once it hits the top, it bounces away. And ranges give you, like I said, very powerful and easily predictable setups. Now, how I define a range, it's not how everyone defines a range, is to have at least two bounces from either side before I see the range is tradable. So in this case, we have the bottom bounce here, the top bounce there, that's 1, 2. We have the second bottom bounce here, so that's 2 bottom bounces. Then we have the second top bounce. So we have 1 top bounce, 2 top bounce, 1 bottom bounce, 2 bottom bounce. Then this becomes a tradable range. So you could have went long here, and you could have went short here, as I explained when I shared this. And you know, these kinds of range setups are some of the most, some of the best setups I take just because of their predictability. Now, when price is in a range and it hits the top of that range or the bottom of that range, it's a very, very powerful barrier for price. So when this was entered and it pulled back, your immediate reaction should not be to exit the trade, because you've got this super powerful barrier up here that's going to prevent price from moving up too far, moving up to your stop loss. And that's pretty much exactly what happened. Now, obviously, this isn't always going to happen. Sometimes it's going to move up. It's going to hit your stop loss. That's the reality of trading. You can never get in a trade that has no chance of losing. Every single trade you enter is going to have a chance of losing, and it can always move and hit your stop loss. But just because it pulls against you, moves against you, it doesn't mean you should exit, especially when you've got this powerful barrier, which is the top of that range, protecting you. So it moved against me. I held on, and eventually it started moving down. Now, how do you handle this after it starts moving down? There's a few different things you can do. What I've done right now is I've moved my stop loss to 0.5 of its original, so 50% of its original. So I've done that once it's hit 1R. I'm testing a few different things this year in terms of how to manage my trades. So once it hits 1R, which was at this point, which is pulled back a little bit from now, I move my stop loss to 0.5 of its original size. Or when I say 0.5, I mean 0.5R, because my stop starts as 1R. But for those of you who don't know about R multiples in trading, which you should, because they're very important, what I mean is basically, let's say my stop loss is roughly 66 pips. I move my stop loss to 33 pips. Now, that lowers the overall risk on this trade. When this hits 1.5 R, which it becomes a bit harder to calculate once you are using this tool, but 1.5 R would be around about here. Once it hits around about there, I'll move that stop loss to the entry point. That's how I'm handling this one in particular. It was last week, Thursday, that I shared the trade. Yeah, it was a long time coming, this one. Yeah, it must have been because that's the 15th of Feb. That's when the indecision closed, and the 18th. No, the 15th was a Friday. It must have been Tuesday. Maybe on Thursday I said that I'm waiting for price to stall out on this level. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Uh, this trade's developing quite well. My stop loss is now half of its original size. My target's staying the same, which this tool has been moved a little bit, so it's not perfect anymore. But my target was somewhere down here. So basically, before this support area is where my target is, and it's at 2-hour target. Right, GBP New Zealand. I did not personally enter this one, but this one was shared in one of the analysis sessions. Uh, I've kept it on the chart just so we can monitor it because there are members in it and there are some people who watched a public analysis in it. Now, this one at this point has probably been closed out with profit, quite obviously because it's done pretty much nothing but move up. So we can strike this one off the list as a nice little profitable trade. USD CAD, this is another trade I shared that I did not personally enter, but some people have entered. It was entered on the 12-hour, but this one was entered quite some time ago, and it's just taken a long time to actually develop and push towards target. I think this one's probably at target or closing in on the target now. If you're still holding on to a USD CAD short, wait, you're in GBP New Zealand or you're in USD CAD, Stan? I didn't see when you typed, yeah, I'm in this one. GBP New Zealand, fair enough. Well, nice, Wake, you should have hit target, right? Or you should be very, very close to target because it has pushed up quite away from that support area. Oh, right, you're adjusting your stop. You're targeting 2.5R. Do take care with this resistance area, Stan. It's a pretty strong resistance area. If you look to the left, there's a few things here that you need to take note of for this trade. First of all is the 200 moving average. 200 moving average acts as a kind of self-adjusting support resistance area. It works because banks, hedge funds, managed funds, all those traders use the 200 moving average as a support resistance area. Now, on cross pairs, the 200 moving average is not as significant because you won't find many big boy traders like banks and hedge funds trading cross pairs. So the 200 moving average is not as significant, but that doesn't mean we should discount it completely. It still does hold some value as support resistance, especially when it joins up with one of our horizontal support resistance areas that we placed. Now, this is a pretty strong resistance area. I think I'm going to pull it up here slightly to match that candle more. Well, it probably sits somewhere in between. It doesn't really matter. Point is, up here there is resistance, and this resistance has shown itself to be quite strong with the last two moves up. And now it's going for a third move up, and it's coinciding with a 200 moving average. Also, what I was just talking about on New Zealand CAD in terms of ranges, remember, that's what's happening here right now. We're getting a range. A range is forming. Now, this range has officially been confirmed with this bounce here. So I was saying with ranges, 2 bounces from the bottom, 2 bounces from the top. Now we've got those 2 top bounces, we've got those 2 bottom bounces, so we can confirm this as a range. So price is nearing the top of that range. It's not as clean and clearly defined a range as New Zealand CAD has because this bounce is quite high on the range, but it is a range and you should trade with care around here. So I'm not saying bail out of this trade right now. I'm just saying these are things you need to consider, that you have a big resistance area in the way right now and that you should plan accordingly. That could mean adjusting your stop. That could mean many things, but you shouldn't think that this is the start of a new major trend. and that price is just going to keep shooting up because there is a strong chance that it will stall out at this at the top of this new range because there is a massive amount of resistance here. So yeah, things to consider. Right, USD CAD. I can't remember when I shared this one. I think I might have actually shared this one 2 weeks ago. And again, I did not enter personally. I've had a whole string of trades which I've shared, which ended up profitable, which I didn't end up entering for one reason or the other. Generally because I've been very busy with snowboarding lessons because I'm off on a snowboarding trip at the start of March. And you can't really take your phone on snowboarding lessons. So I missed a lot of these trades because of snowboarding. Snowboarding has cost me a lot of money. Not only are snowboarding trips and gear extremely expensive, but the amount of lost trades because of snowboarding lessons has been, missed trades has been absurd this year. So I didn't enter this USD CAD one. It is going down. It is heading towards target if you're still in it. I guess hold on to it a bit longer if it hasn't hit your target. But do keep in mind that it is hitting a pretty strong support area right now. So you might want to trade accordingly. Or trade in consideration of that support with consideration. USDJPY, not doing much. I was waiting for it to fall back down and hit this support area for a potential long. It's getting less and less likely that's going to actually happen, to be honest. I'll keep it orange. Orange means potential setups we're looking out for. I'll keep it orange because we're still, I guess, looking out for this, but I'm just not as confident with this being a potential setup as I was when I first shared it last week. AUDJPY, I believe I shared this setup yesterday's analysis, which was a members only analysis. Some of you may be short here, but the way this happened, it would have been a very tricky short to enter because of that big upper wick, making the stop loss pretty wide and this support area here being pretty close, making the risk to reward ratio not that good. Did anyone enter this one? Yeah, I mean, I wish I could become a pro snowboarder. I really, really enjoy snowboarding. It's loads of fun. Yeah, I imagine most people missed it. I didn't get a chance to get in this trade. And even if I did get a chance to see it, I probably wouldn't have entered just because of that upper wick. Yeah, that drop was quite quick. But once again, we have what looks like a range forming. I did a webinar at the start of February talking about what I expect to see this year. And my conclusion was trends and ranges, ranges especially on the crosspairs. And that is what we're seeing so far. So I'm glad my analysis has been accurate on that. We are seeing a lot of ranges forming. So this one isn't really a complete range yet. It kind of, you could, I guess, say it has two bounces from the bottom. It's a bit of a half bounce from the bottom. But we got ranges here, a range here that's forming. So once this drops down to support, it'll be officially a range and we can start trading it as a range. So right now for AUDJPY, this has been missed by pretty much all of us because of how fast it moved and because of how big that upper wick was. But I think there is potential that this is going to turn into a range. So let's wait to see what happens when it hits the bottom of that range. I'm going to unmark it for now because it's not even close. So let's just leave it and watch. All right, GBPJPY, I shared this setup in yesterday's members only analysis. I'm just going to shuffle these around a tiny bit and move the unimportant ones down. I shared this one in yesterday's members only analysis, but it hasn't triggered yet, so I'm looking at it. I'm looking at it today still. What we're looking at here is a pretty strong setup. Why is this a strong setup? First of all, we got the 200 moving average on top of our resistance area. Now, the 200 moving average, as I've explained, is used by banks and hedge funds. It's not as powerful on cross pairs, but GBPJPY is one of the more commonly traded cross pairs, so it does have some more validity on here. So this is meeting with my horizontal resistance area, which is set at 144.55. We are getting indecision forming on the daily, which means price is stalling out at this resistance area. This resistance area has shown recent resistance here, and I guess a little bit here, but not much more than that really. So I would say it's a medium strength resistance area. Well, actually, if you look back here, that's two strong bounces. Let's just call it a medium strength resistance area with the 200 moving average on top of it, giving it some extra strength. So this is a really, really good looking setup, and I'm quite excited about this one. It's not triggered yet. I imagine it's probably not going to trigger until probably tomorrow, maybe even Monday. Maybe even Monday. It could, technically speaking, trigger today. Now, I have not set a pending order on this yet, but I probably will sometime today. And it'll go something like this. Not like this. I'm just adjusting it for a second. Probably go something like stand compressions are members only setups, and this is a public webinar, so I'm not going to get into details on the compression side of this, but yes, there is also no problem, man. You didn't really reveal anything. There is also some compression stuff happening here, which is lower time frame stuff, which won't necessarily work against us because, you know, when we're talking about 5-minute charts, a lot can happen on the 5-minute chart before a trade takes off on the daily. We could get like 5 trades on the 5-minute chart and then still take the daily after those 5 trades. So the compression stuff isn't really that big of an impact here. We're waiting for the daily setup, which is going to take probably a while to develop. Like I said, Friday, Monday, Tuesday, something like that. It could take a while to develop. I haven't set a pending order on yet. I might set this one today. I might not. Just kind of depends how things develop. But if I do set a pending order, it will be something like this. 145.36 for the stop, 143.97 for the entry, and 141.19 for the target. Obviously, this is subject to change depending on what today's candle does. Let's say, for example, from here we get a big push up to there, making new highs. Then I'll reconsider this trade as a whole, and I'll definitely reconsider my stop loss size because I'd want to pull that stop loss beyond the most recent high. So, you know, this is what I'm thinking right now, but subject to change depending on what today's candle does. But yeah, this looks pretty good, guys. I'm very excited about this one, actually. USDJPY we already covered, so let's move that here. Now, silver, I shared this potential short trade yesterday in the members only analysis. And I suggested that if you're trading silver, you do so with a smaller position size if you're new to it, because you don't want to enter with your full position size. I personally decided to not enter this trade at all, simply because the risk to reward ratio was not good anymore. Now, I could have technically entered on the 12-hour, and sorry, I said I haven't entered this trade at all. That's not true. I have entered this trade on a demo. Now, I know a lot of you are going to be thinking, well, maybe not you in this room, because you guys are members and you guys know a little bit more about trading, but a lot of people in the public are going to be thinking, why is a professional trader trading a demo account? Well, it's simply because I'm not really used to trading gold and silver. It's not something I commonly trade. And I like to trade I'm very risk averse when it comes to my trading. I like to test things out before I put real money on it, because the number one rule for trading, for any trader, the number one rule for any trading strategy, for any tradable market, is not to lose money. It's not making money. It's not to lose money. That's your number one rule. Preserve your capital. So when I'm going into something a little bit new, a little bit different, something I'm not used to, I'll do one or two things. I'll trade real money with a radically reduced position size, or I'll trade demo till I get a handle of this new thing that I'm doing. So that could be a new market. That could be just a new pair, which, for most Forex pairs, I wouldn't do that. But this is a bit of a weird one because it's a kind of spot silver. It's a kind of commodity / Forex pair. So this one's a little bit different enough for me to trade it with caution. And I'll do it with new setups. When I'm testing new setups, I don't test them with real money. I test them with demo. First demo, then I put on real money, reduce position size. And then once I'm comfortable with it, I'll do my normal position size. So technically I am in this trade, but it's demo. So it doesn't really, it's obviously not real money. So anyway, but either way, this is a risky trade that I probably would not enter with real money, even if I was more comfortable trading silver, simply because of the risk to reward ratio not being that great. On the 12-hour, the risk to reward ratio was a little bit better, but it still wasn't fantastic. It was 1.7. Did anyone enter this one? Oh, this is going to be a long analysis. We haven't even moved past yesterday's pairs. Nobody? I think there was a forum post about this. I'm really sorry, guys. I haven't been on the forum as much as I should have been this week. I've just had a million things to do. I'm working really hard on creating this advanced trading journal for you guys. It was originally created in Google Sheets, which is pretty much Excel, the Google version of Excel. But now I'm trying to get it over to a website format. That way you guys can get advanced statistics on your performance by entering your trades in, which is why I've got all these like coding programs open. I'm trying to code it into a website. I know I can hire people to do it, but I love coding and it's fun for me and relaxing, so I'm doing that. But I can't see any silver posted on the forum. I could have swore someone posted it to the forum. Maybe it's in the watch list section. Oh yeah, it is. Right. No, that's gold. That's XAU. Right, so there is no silver on the forum. Never mind. So I don't think anyone's actually in this one. So let's not focus on it too much. Yeah, let's just move on. GBP New Zealand. We've already discussed this, but I'm actually going to stick this on the potentials list for the reasons I discussed, that it's in a range now. So we want to see what happens when it hits the top of that range. So that's a potential for today. GBPJPY, obviously a potential, as we've discussed. USDJPY, I'm actually going to strike that off the list. I'm getting too married to this position, to the idea of this trade when it's actually not doing anything I want it to do. AUDJPY, I'm not going to stick this on the potentials list, but do watch out for price getting to that 77.62. So let's move on to some other pairs. AUD CAD, nothing much going on. AUD USD, nothing much going on. All right. Seeing some weird behavior on the charts here. AUD USD, like I said, there's nothing much going on. USDCHF stalling out on resistance. There is a potential long here for those who want to take it. I believe I shared this one yesterday too, didn't I? It was just marked purple instead of orange. Did anyone enter this long here? Oh, actually, originally I shared this on Tuesday's analysis, but my support area was further up here. I've adjusted the support area down, and now it's now we've got what is pretty much a triggered setup on the 12-hour, and a setup that's about to trigger on the daily. So this is actually a pretty good potential. Doesn't look like anyone's in it right now. Let's do some analysis on this one. It's doable, but I don't. That big long lower wick makes the stop loss placement difficult. We're going to have to enter, if we want to enter, we're going to have to enter as soon as it breaks the high of that indecision candle, pretty much. Maybe a few pips beyond it, which is a very tight entry. I don't really like those entries because you're not really seeing that much confirmation that buyers are in control of price. And our stop loss needs to be just below the low of indecision. So it's a super tight stop loss. And it's already a somewhat risky trade because when USDCHF hits these highs, it tends to move away quite quickly. I was waiting for it to hit the resistance area, which it didn't quite reach. It bounced away before there. But my idea is that it's going to go back up, hit the resistance area, and then go down, or at least my hope. You know what, guys? This is a potential setup. You could enter using pretty much what I have here, which is roughly entry at 1.0023, stop loss at 1.0098. Sorry, that's profit level, obviously, because it's above 1.0098, and stop loss at 0.9979. I'm not going to enter this one. I think it's a bit too risky for me personally. Simply because the entry is super tight, the stop loss is super tight, the risk to reward ratio is not fantastic, and we're reaching major highs on USDCHF where price usually backs away from quite violently. I was a bit more excited about this when the entry was lower, the stop loss was not as wide, but now it's just not looking as strong to me. So I'm going to keep this one marked for those of you who want to enter, but I'm personally not going to. We've already done now you do USD, Euro USD, we already. I need a better way to organize these things during analysis sessions because it's getting a bit messy now. US oil is another new thing I'm trying out. GBPUSD, nothing much going on here, guys. It's just stalling out at this 200 moving average or just above it. We got this move that was caused by some Brexit news. There was a potential trade here, actually, that I was looking for on Tuesday's analysis, but it didn't really turn into anything because of this big move up caused by Brexit news. So it wasn't entered, and it's now cancelled. AUD New Zealand, nothing much going on. CAD CHF, nothing much going on. Euro AUD, nothing much going on. Euro CAD, once again, nothing much going on. Euro GBP, same. Euro JPY, potential for a short trade here, guys. It's a very risky short trade. I'm not going to enter this one. price is starting to get like this very minor trend up. You could call it a wedge if you want. I don't really trade wedges, but we're getting this push up here. It's stalling at resistance, which could indicate a short trade, but shorting into this kind of mess is often very risky. There's a few reasons for that. First of all, it's hit this resistance area twice and failed to make any significant moves down. The first time was here. It dropped down to here, which isn't that much of a drop. Pulled back, hit it again, which isn't as clear on the daily, but I'm sure if we drop down to a smaller time frame, yes, we can see that it hit that resistance area, pulled away, but once again failed to move down by any significant amount. Yeah, you can see that on the 4 hour and on the 6 hour, so on. So now it's stalling out at this resistance area again. If you were to short here, it's very likely that price is going to get stuck around this area here, where it's got stuck before, and it's not going to give you a good enough risk to reward ratio. So while you could technically enter short here for a reversal trade, you have such a messy amount of movement such messy history to the left that you probably would be smarter to stay out of it. I'm not going to enter it. I'm not even going to mark it on the list as a potential. Euro New Zealand backing away from support. GBPAUD, nothing much going on. Gold, spot gold. This is another one of the tests we're doing. So let's leave this for now because there's nothing really, price is pulling away right now, but this isn't on resistance. So yeah, let's not do anything with that. So summary for today, guys. GBPJPY, very strong potential short setup. GBP New Zealand, let's wait for it to hit that resistance area. Once it hits that resistance area, we're going to have a range forming and we could take a short from that resistance area. USDCHF, potential long, which I'm going to skip personally, but, looks quite good. When I say looks quite good, I mean it looks quite good as indecision sitting on support. But risk-wise, it doesn't look good. So it looks good when you follow the pure rules of price action trading or of my strategy. It looks like a good setup. But the other factors that come in after that, like risk management, is what puts me off the trade. So for those of you who have different risk management rules and who are more open to taking risks, then it is a valid setup. Are there any questions, guys? This has been a long analysis session. Wow. But I think we discussed a lot of interesting topics. From the news stuff we discussed at the start and how to identify the impact news has had on your positions, to a little bit about how ranges work. Doesn't look like there's any questions, so we're going to wrap this one up. Thank you guys for attending, and I will see you. For members, I'll see you on the forum. For everyone else, I'll see you on Tuesday's analysis. New Zealand CAD, just one final thing. I'm holding onto New Zealand CAD. Like I said, my stop loss has been halved. And yeah, guys, that pretty much wraps things up. So thank you for attending, and I'll see you on Tuesday.